Welcome to another episode and video on my robotic arm, pneumatic hand, fischertechnik controller and compressor. Everything built with fischertechnik. Last time I tried to implement the yaw movement to the hand, and for that I added this motor, winch and some wires to the hand, and the problem appeared that the wires got into the gears, so I added these guides here and on the other side, right here, but also it shows that the wires get stuck here in the winch. So now the point is that I have to add some guidance at the winch. Now I have put here a hook and here, but that is absolutely not sufficient. So what I need to do is untie these knots with which I have tied these pieces together, and put this right here, and let this part of the rope through this hole, and of course the other side as well. So that is what I want to do right now. See if I can untie this knot. And untying is always harder than tying. But I did it anyway. So this one goes through here. If it lets me, and then this hook can go, and now it is right in front of the winch. So each part of the rope that is inside of the winch, and that has to be checked. So there, alright, this is part of the construction, so that is alright. And then you can never be too sure. So this is all right. Back through the hole. And this might be replaced by a proper nylon cord, which I also used for the lower gear, right there. So let's see how this ends up. Let me take away this one. Now the art is to get this in a nice knot again, and the distance or the length needed is always tricky. How to get this through, and that well, is a struggle, and I will do that off camera. So I've managed to redo everything. So now they are here through the holes. Unfortunately, the distance is not entirely nice, but one is downwards and one is upwards, so that is a nice one. Next thing is, of course, connecting it once again to the hand. So for now, without that same kind of eye, let's keep it neutral for now. So they are now kind of fixed. And now the question is, will this work? To do that, I better run the routine. Last time I fixed the wires here and reversed them, and now I also noticed that the wires on the first motor have gone. So I first have to fix this prior to doing something, and this is easier, so they have to be upper red, I think. This is hard to do, really hard. So the question is, which one is the right one? Then I think considering the wires, green should be up, but they let go very easily. Which makes it not easy to reconnect, unfortunately. So let's try to fix that first. I solved the wiring problem of the motor by using staples right here through the hole of the wiring attachment, and the question is that going to last? Well, I certainly hope so, but I'm not quite sure yet. It is the only way to avoid these contact points on the motor to break off, because if you bend metal too many times it breaks off, and then I would really have a very big problem. So with this improvisation, I will now test the motors, if they work at all. And I first considered doing that with the diagnose software, but I think, well, I can first start to see if everything works, and then run the real software. So, opening the interface. Okay. Now I have to select the slave, since the motor runs over the slave, and And now the question is, how does it run really? Not really, because this is slipping. So this is better. But the yawl is not visible at all. So what I actually could do is halting the movement of the wrist and then do a movement of the yawl. But that requires a very different wiring. For now though, I am happy that the wrist works, which means that the wiring works. How to go on? That's a good question. Because right now there's very little yaw, although this works nicely in itself. So now this looks like working, but how can I make sure that despite the pivot of the wrist that the yaw actually does work? Well, a very simple idea is, of course, to remove or to disconnect this motor, which is actually the wrist pivot, and have it connected like this. So just this motor, which is the yaw motor. Another problem, by the way, I noticed is that by the force of this gear, the perpendicular gear, the upper part of the elbow frame is being pushed out. So that is a sign of the force that is being executed. But first of all, let's now see, without the pivot of the wrist, how the yaw actually works. Or works out is a better statement. So I guess I'll take the diagnostics for it, but then I'll have to take care of this switch. First open the interface again, and then and this brings another problem to light. Let me show that closer by. What you see is that this gear works, but this totally slips over the axis. In other words, the yaw doesn't work at all. And that has been a problem with another model in the past as well. So, how to solve this? I could try to make, okay, it is completely slipping. So this is no use. Then I should, yeah, this is absolutely not fixed. And I know why. Because the axis has come out of this part. How far is this axis in here? Quite far, which is not needed. So yeah, how to solve this? It only needs to be a little bit in here. That is an interesting thing. Let me take away this. And I am afraid I have to take all of this out. Alright, so now you see the bare construction. And the whole problem is, alright, take away the motor a bit. This axis has to completely slide in. That's one thing, that's two. And I'm afraid that is too much. Alright, that is better. A lot better. So now I have to build it up again and try to make it work. The motor back into place. Alright, so now the axis has gone further into the perpendicular gear. And now let's see if the yaw does work. So, once again, diagnosis. And this is not working at all. So I need to push this in. Alright, the other way. Nope. And now I see something else happening. When I hold this, it's not working at all. Let's see how I can improve it. Alright, now it is touching it. And with a little shift, alright. But this gear doesn't work at all. Not right now. It is barely touching it. So let me experiment a bit. Now I hold it, it barely works. No. Something is not quite right in the idea. And this is a very slow movement. Ah, I see something different. Hold on. The entire rope has gone into the margin of the winch. So let me stop the motor. This will be better. But this gives another problem. How to fix this? Another try. Alright, now I understand what exactly happens. This is being held back, and instead of being pulled, it's not being pulled anymore. And this should happen, but it doesn't. So my guess is that this construction point is not the right one. The other way doesn't work. Alright, holding in doesn't work. So while the idea here is nice, although it barely works, but how it will work is another question. And going here, this is not correct. So while holding it or pulling it, because that is what it is supposed to do, this should be connected. Oops. This should be connected, and this has to be a different point, somewhere here or so that the hand is really pulled like this. And in that perspective, this point isn't the correct one either. So how to go from here? Idea is nice, as I said, but execution not so much. So while thinking further, this problem that I now encounter are actually problems, because this is a problem, the slipping winch is a problem, although it's not really slipping anymore, but you never know. This flexibility is a problem, and this is a problem. And all this is now showing without the pivot, because I took it, I disconnected the pivot. So with the pivot running, what will happen? So is it wise to do it at the same time? Looking at that and taking a look at the interface, I can add one wire. And that's the last wire I can add in this case. So should I rewire, and this one is controlled separately from this one. The whole point is, of course, how long should it be done? Because looking at this pivot, it is timed by this switch. Same story for this one, for the pivot. But I don't have a switch yet for this one. And how should I do it? Something like a poke here and then a switch like here. All things considered, I need some reconstructions. And the question is, how would they be? That's a very good one. This is, as said, not very well, although when I run this back, because this was way too loose, oops, talking here, so these two wires should be tense at all times. So that's another problem. There has to be a neutral moment. And this actually should be the neutral moment, where both wires are equally wind up. And that is certainly not the case now. And how far can they stretch? Well, this is one. This is almost stretched. And when I bend this further away, this one is now almost stretched. So when it is further away, it needs more stretch, more length to still be connected. So this is getting more and more complicated. They always need to be connected, and it has variable length. When it is at the utmost position rolled over by the pivot, it needs less length than in that position. So it is a very wise construction. I start to doubt it very much. Probably, most likely, it should be here somewhere, but how to do that? Food for thought, again. And for the last part of this episode, once again, trying everything. Does everything still work? And I reconnected the pivot motor. So let's see. Running Python again. And see if the compressor does its job, so I can touch some fingers. And there is another point of failure for the yawl, that this is not an ideal construction at all. Then one thing that I thought had solved the lower gear, but the arm is not moving. So why is that? The sensor is being touched, so maybe there's an electrical problem. But I don't see it right now. and I touched some wires, and suddenly the motor did work of the vertical gearbox. So wiring is not all that is nice. So let's see the hand. Nope. So all in all, not everything works as yet. Much to find out, much to fix still. Wiring, construction, program, etc. So for now, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Give it thumbs up, like the video. Follow me on Twitter, retweet and like. Follow me on Instagram and like. Leave a comment if you want. Much appreciated. Please donate to keep videos coming to you. It takes time and energy, so your donation is much appreciated. More information at the start of this video and on my website, and you can find the website also under this video if you watch it on YouTube, but where else? And this is going to be continued, obviously. Bye bye.